Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lead with Empower podcast. We went very strong on the podcast with just about 80 episodes recorded, and then things kind of returned to a little bit more of a hectic pace for our programming and our services, and had to take a little bit of a hiatus. But the Lead with Empower podcast is back. And we are joined, and we will continue to be joined by Zack Morello, who is the assistant general manager with the Empower leadership team, and really this reboot of the Lead with Empower podcast is kind of rooted in some of our initial conversations that Zack and I had back in January of this year. The short of it is Zack and I were introduced to one another through a mutual connection. Shout out to Lynn down at Bridgeport Adult Education, one of our favorite people. And I wrapped up the program there with the Bridgeport Adult Ed group, and Lynn pulled me aside afterwards and said, "Hey, I got this person I want you to meet. No pressure at all, but I'm gonna connect you with a guy, Zack, that I know." And back in January, Zack and I had connected a couple times, and I guess here we are now, 9.5, 10 months into his tenure, first year with Empower Leadership, and not only is he crushing programming and some of the sales activity, but also just a great asset and bringing some great experiences to the Empower Leadership team, and Zack, it's been awesome working with you, and excited to have you join me as part of the Lead with Empower podcast moving forward. And I guess let's start off. Let's give the audience a little bit of a snippet about who you are, where you come from, and how things are going. Your first 9.5, 10 months with Empower.
Yeah, thanks for that intro, Dan. I appreciate it. So, to back it up from where I started, I went to school at Wagner College in New York City or Staten Island. So 4 years there, and then 5 years in Upper West Side-ish area. I got my degree in business marketing administration, and I haven't done a single thing completely as a job for marketing. I go into that generic. What do you call it? Generic idea that you don't work with what you do, what you get your degree in. So I
Hey,
ended up.
that makes two of us, by the way.
Oh, see, we can talk about that in a second too. So yeah, one of my first jobs, or my first job out of college, was a humbling experience of picking up dog poop. But what happened was, I just needed to get in the door somewhere, and picking up dog poop was something that I was comfortable with. I've been around dogs all my life. I'm like, you know what? I'll bite the bullet. I'll grind it out. And long story short, I ended up being the general manager for the same company that I was doing that for. Just worked my way up, and it's a cool story to end up running the location that I was at once the bottom totem pole. So that's how I got into management, and I ended up managing, fitness locations, retail, obviously doggy daycare, and everything in between. So my career has been all about management on running a business. But at the time that Dan found me, I've been kind of, I've been kind of stepping away and getting a little bit frustrated with the management world, in the very sense of hiring people, reprimanding and firing. Like it's just part of what you have to do, and I became the bad guy in the business rather than the uplifting person. So when he told me about Empower and what you guys do and what he does, I'm like, okay, you know what? That sounds like taking the sliver of part of what I actually enjoy in management and doing it full time. So that's why I'm here now today.
And the parts we enjoy in management, all right? Obviously there's ups and downs. I think in any profession, any career, there's parts that you enjoy more than others. Um, Looking back on your time in that world, what were some of those things that you enjoyed most as far as like your responsibilities as a manager of people, a manager of a team?
Yeah, I that's a great question because that small sliver of things that I did enjoy is what I do all the time now. But it really was taking somebody fresh, or somebody that didn't know anything, somebody that was motivated to move up the ladder and develop them. I loved helping people and seeing people grow. That was the coolest part. And unfortunately, I can't be like, okay, you do this job, here's all the money in the world. Like, a monetary influence can only take you so far, and as a manager and people from corporate that I had to answer to, that couldn't be the answer every time. So I had to find other ways of motivating, and whether it be my energy or whether it be the environment that I was helping create or the team that I was developing, rewarding, and other factors. That's the part that was really cool for me. And to see somebody that I started with, like you say with me, 9 months, years ago, to become in management or to become whatever they wanted, whatever I was helping them with, and focusing their attention toward, and of how far they've come, was like gratifying for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's awesome. And so for those of you that have listened to our podcast in the past, so we started this little project during COVID in 2020. Self-admittedly, I've had the pleasure of working a job that in most days we're in front of different groups of people, and we're playing games, I guess, play with a purpose in front of people and with groups, as young as fourth grade all the way up to adult groups. And suddenly in the spring of 2020, that all went away. Initially, as everybody thought, it was, a little bit of a 2 week hiatus from our normalcy, which turned into, whatever it turned
Years,
into.
yeah.
But, so the original iteration of the Lead with Empower podcast was, I think, kind of served dual purposes. One, it was an opportunity to speak with a bunch of different people from diverse backgrounds and diverse areas of profession, and learn about their story and kind of what their thoughts were on leadership and what are some of the strengths and maybe struggles that they experience in their respective field or day-to-day environment. And I had an opportunity to, I think we did, somewhere upwards of 75, 80 episodes with, different people ranging from elementary age, middle school age students, to professional athletes and coaches and people that are in the municipal world in leadership, and in the education and in the athletics world. And it was really an eye-opening experience, because even though all of the people were very different, they all kind of leaned back into this idea. There were some consistent premises around leadership and around self-coaching and around, bringing the best out of the people around you, that were common, regardless if I was talking to four high school students who were part of a leadership group at their respective school, or, someone who works in local government. And that was a really eye-opening experience. And then the second purpose of it was really to feed the itch that I had of, when you go from being in front of groups, 300 days a year, or, and suddenly it's down to 0 days. It was a little tough. So, but we're back, and, we're gonna bring about a new format. And it's really the format to the Lead with Empower podcast is really going to be, how do we take some of the concepts and some of the experiences that we integrate in our day-to-day operation, and put it together in some sort of form of a resource, whether it's a topic or a concept or an actual physical experience that can be replicated in home and office and school, amongst athletic teams, et cetera. And it kind of stems from, I think back, and it feels like it was a couple days ago, but it was like, again, almost 10 months ago, where we had a couple initial conversations on Google Meet. And I think maybe on our second and third conversation, it got close to the, like, hey, what is it that you actually do? Like, I know it's team building, I know it's leadership development, but, like, what is it actually? And that's, we're going to get into that as we get into this episode and future episodes. But, I'm going to bounce it back over to Zach. So you've been here for basically 9.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Based on those experiences, and knowing that you started from zero, all the way to kind of what you're doing now on a regular basis, where you're leading leading initiatives and you're leading programs on your own and you're helping to boost and bring our staff up, what have been some of the things that you've learned, I guess, over the experiences since mid-January?
Yeah, and that's a good way of putting it is what exactly do you do? And like I knew from like the smart part of the management that like okay, I'm going to be team building and helping people and like that part I knew that's what kind of grabbed me, but how you do it in relation to like the people that you're in front of, it was kind of a mystery to me essentially. So going into it, I had open mind, like let's let it rip. And I think one of the coolest things that I learned was how one program can be so different from the next depending on who you're in front of and what they want to get out of it. So I mean, I'll go down to the micro of like one single activity, and I know we're going to go through other podcasts talking about activities, but one activity can be meant to do A, B, and C, but depending on the group and what they're looking for and who they are, their age, their gender, their profession, their whatever it is, you can use that one activity for so many different reasons. And I think that was the coolest thing for me to understand. Like nothing, because these are people. These are talking people, are and with their own individual personalities and backgrounds and races. So you can use this activity for all different types of programs. And I think that was the cool thing. Nothing's black and white is what I'm trying to say. Nothing was like, okay, this program's going to go like this, and they're going to learn this, and then you're going to leave. You have to almost, yes, you can prep all day long going into it, but go it be actually doing the program and having that experience of helping these people through these activities was kind of eye opening to me. Like wow, like you can actually, and that's a double sided coin. You could reach so many people doing what we do.
Yeah, no, and that's been something that I've enjoyed most about this working with Empower, since 2009 is this idea of like there has not been like back-to-back days that are the same.
The same,
And
right?
and we might go and run the same kind of structure of program that might even include the same exact structure of activities on back-to-back days, but because of that very unique dynamic of like it's a different group of participants, the weather might be different, what happened in school the day before might be different. All of those
Uh,
factors play into like, yep, we think it's going to go this way, but there's a good chance it's going to go one of these other 500 ways as well.
yeah, I mean, speaking of each program that you've done being completely different from the next, regardless of what activities you implement, like how did this start? How did the beginning of Empower begin?
Yeah, so it's actually it's wild. You and I met through a mutual connection, Lynn Stevens down in Bridgeport, who she might have been one of our first team building clients in 2009 when she was at Middletown Adult Education. Again, like the start of Empower, it's a little bit of a story on relationship and a good buddy of mine from high school. We were a couple years apart, but we had played a couple sports together at Xavier here in Middletown, Connecticut, and as you start to peel back these different layers, there was a lot of family connections beyond just Joe and I being high school teammates. And in Man, it was somewhere in 2008 maybe where I had a phone call from my mother, probably after dinner time on a random night, and she's like, "Hey, we just had dinner with Joe and Maureen Doring, and Joe was telling us about this company he founded, which in 2007 was when the company or the idea and Empower Leadership was founded." And my mind just remember my mom like, you got to get back in touch with Joe. You got to get back in touch with Joe. And at the time, I was teaching, phys ed and health up at a school in Springfield, Mass, and was kind of looking at some other options that might be out there. And yeah, had breakfast with Joe at Denny's in like February of 2009, and yeah, and little moons over my hammy was what was really a meal that we shared, and then just getting into like hey, I'm starting this thing, and we're gonna have an outdoor adventure facility in Middletown. I need somebody to help me run it, and it was the being right place, right time, right connection. Um, but it goes a little further than that. And Joe's a veteran of the United States Army. After graduating from Xavier, he went to University of Delaware and was in the ROTC program there. Um, and I want to say his time in the Army was 2000 to around 2007, 2008. He was an infantry officer. He was part in support or led units in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom in both Afghanistan and Iraq in the 2000s. And the general idea behind starting the company was there was a lot of preparation that he and his teammates had to go through to allow them to do what they had to do when they were overseas during time of combat. Um, and not everybody goes that route in their life, right? Not everybody's enlisting into one of the armed forces. Not everybody's an athlete. Not everybody's, itching to be the number one scholar at their school. But everybody wakes up on a daily basis and faces some sort of challenge. And the idea behind Empower Leadership Sports and Adventure Center, which we were at the time, was to use outdoor adventure experiences, zip lining, climbing, land navigation courses, facilitated team building activities to help individuals overcome whatever challenges they face in their day-to-day living.
Mm-hmm.
And just that idea was freaking awesome. And it was between the idea that I thought was something that could run, and then also the personal connection. Leaving a public school teaching gig where there's retirement and insurance for a startup during what was a global economic crisis in like 2007, 8, and
That's right. Yeah,
9.
yeah.
So I think it was a little bit of both. Like knowing that I kind of grew up with Joe and his wife Maureen. There were a lot of connections that their respective families had with my family. So it was as risky as it was for me, and it was risky for Joe as well. Obviously, it made sense. So I jumped in and was hired as their operations manager. I want to say in like February or early March of 2009. Um, finished up teaching on May 1st of 2009, and that was it. I was with Empower Leadership, from there going forward.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to unpack there, and I'm gonna swing it back to you in a second. But
Yeah.
like your degree was in what?
I went to physical education, teacher preparation,
Yeah,
yeah.
and to go from that, because like same story with me, even probably even wilder for you to go from that, and then you did start a career in that within the public school system, and then obviously the timing worked out well, 2008, 2009, to jump on to team building. Um, what was that transition like from what you did to what you do now?
Yeah, it was I was young. I was 29, no, 20, yeah, 29 when Empower Leadership started up. Um I had at the time about 5 years in a couple different school settings, with also 2 years of work as a graduate assistant at Springfield College. So I kind of had a little bit of a taste of being in the public school, being in alternative education, um, running and assisting in the running of a summer, um, essentially what ended up being a summer leadership program that was delivered at Springfield College through a 21st Century grant and a great program at the college. And um, at the time, I don't know if I thought further beyond than um, I had gained a passion for outdoor adventure and how that can be used as a teaching tool.
Yeah.
Prior to knowing Empower was even going to be a thing, like I'd started um, through connections once again, taking students from the alternative ed education school that I was at in Springfield and bringing them out to the East Campus, which is the Springfield College's ropes course, and being able to see those see those middle and high school students basically transform in what seemed to be like this huge different environment. Like I think to the students it felt like we were in the deepest of woods you can imagine, when in reality we were like in the heart of Springfield. You could still hear like
Yeah.
cars and traffic.
Right.
But to see the students transform into something very different, just by going to a place that was like a mile and a half down the road from where the school was.
Yep.
So like I don't know. I don't know if it was anything more than that. I knew I was ready to move on from the spot I was at. I knew I loved doing experiential education, adventure education. Um, I knew I liked elements of teaching and elements of coaching. Um, and after conversations with Joe, I felt like it was going to be a great opportunity to be able to do all those things as a career, as like my professional path. And
Yeah. I
so
just
didn't
go
think
ahead.
far beyond that. Like I'm like, you know what? Like things lined up perfectly in this moment, and I think now's the time to do it.
Yeah, as coming from an outsider of an already very established company, to understand and know where Empower really came from a hardcore veteran that wanted to help people on the ground without having to go to, you know, go overseas.
Yeah,
Was,
or like basic training, like go through the beat, like whatever. That's got to be, I'm assuming it's like the most difficult stuff a human being could be put through. you
yeah,
know?
yeah. And if you think about it, like I kind of wanted to talk about, like what we do is very unique.
Yeah.
You try to look up what we do and on on the internet. You're not. I couldn't find any other company that specifically does what we do. When it comes to team building, you could find like playing card mixer anywhere, but the way we facilitate and the way how we use it to teach and to help people grow is very, very different from anything that I've ever seen. So understand that it came from a hardcore veteran like that wanted to create a safe environment to help anybody, not just in schools, but anybody with team building or collaboration or overcoming fears, whatever the case is. It was definitely a cool thing to learn about what Empower does.
Yeah, and early, I mean, our first 10 years in business. So we opened up in 2009 in Middletown, a 30-acre outdoor adventure facility. And we had, at the time when we first opened up, we had a half-mile long zip line canopy tour course. Um, I don't know. I think there might have been some out in like the Berkshires in Massachusetts, but there wasn't a ton of that type of experience or that type of activity, in central Connecticut. Um, so those first 10 years, it was sort of easier to paint a picture of what we do. Like we zip line and
Yeah.
you could show a video of someone soaring through the treetops on like a 700-foot long zip line and having a blast, and you can get that picture of them afterwards where they're like, if I can do that, I can do
Yeah.
anything. Like,
Yep.
and in after we closed the doors to that adventure facility in Middletown. Our mission was still the same. It was to inspire people to become the best leaders that they can become and inspire them to inspire the people around them.
Mhm.
But I guess the learning vehicle was changed drastically.
I think that's
Um,
a great transition too, to be like, hey, what do you do? And you could be like, show them a video of, like you said, someone soaring through the air, like, oh, that's cool. And like you can obviously make a great idea of like overcome your fear of heights and
yep.
overcome and go do something that you're uncomfortable with. But you used that to translate into the very, very safe activities that we do now on the ground, but the same outcome essentially.
Yeah. And like and this we realized this really quickly. Like, yes, it's great to throw on a harness and to climb 60 feet up into a tree, or to fly across a half mile of different zip lines, and you could physically see people almost overcome with fear and then overcome with that, like, I guess, emotion of accomplishment after they complete it. um but heights isn't the only fear people face, right? And we learned really quickly, like, for some people, raising your hand and speaking up in front of a group is terrifying, and it doesn't come naturally, it doesn't come easy, and it's something that person has to find some sort of courage inside of them to be like, I have something to say.
Yeah.
You know, there's also fear embedded in like, hey, if you and I are best buddies and we work together all the time, and then suddenly we're put in a spot where Zach's over here and Dan's over here, and we're not working together,
Mhm.
there's fear and there's challenge involved in that. So it was really just reshaping how we looked at that.
Yeah, and going off that, sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
no, no.
I think that small example that you said of, okay, you ask a crowd of, doesn't matter what age or who we're in front of, but ask crowd a question, and you have that person that normally doesn't speak up, or you see that person that wants to say something, but you recognize that they didn't raise their hand. Not always is it great to pick on the person that's super excited to raise their hand, that always does it, and maybe doesn't have the best thing to contribute because they're always contributing, or they're just used to being the center of attention. But what the difference is with Empower is you can recognize, or we can recognize, that person wanted to say something. That person, you can tell, never raises their hand. And not only will you call on that person and give them an audience that they're not used to having, but you'll point out the fact that this is what's happening. You'll verbalize, hey, if someone else is talking, I'm going to make sure that the room is quiet. So why don't we do the same thing for this person, you know?
Yep.
So I think that's a cool transition of, okay, you can obviously say you're overcoming your fear of heights here and because you're up in the air. But when we do activities, sometimes people going into it like, what on earth is happening? But they don't see the reason for it. And we have to verbally point it out.
Yep, yep, and that's what's I think what's great about it is I think all of our programming and our programming does range from like as close to pure fun and recreational on one side of the
Yep.
spectrum, all the way over to like professional development, skill building, train the trainer type experiences, and kind of everything in between. But it all goes back to, and again, this is something I learned from Joe. Um, especially in the early years, being a startup with two full-time people and maybe, maybe two or three or, part-time ziplining guides, was this idea of self-leadership or leadership of self. And we experienced that firsthand, trying to grow something that we were both really passionate about during what was a very difficult time economically, financially for people. A lot of long days, 6, 7 a.m. to 9, 10 p.m. and a lot of challenges faced. And, at the end of the day, if Joe was able to forge through and I was able to forge through, we were going to get through that day successfully. And it really, I guess, solidified this idea of, hey, before you can even think about leading other people, you have to be able to take care of your business. You have to be able to lead yourself. Like, what are you doing to set and achieve the goals that you want to achieve? Like, what do you do when you face an adverse moment? Are you the one that wants to run away from it? Are you the one that's going to, trench in and try to figure out some way to the other side of that challenge? So, um, we had a lot of firsthand um, experiences, I guess, to sharpening that sword that for us, but also it really ended up being that foundational piece to all future programming. And you've heard me say this in programs like, hey, before we start pointing out what other people are doing or not doing, let's make sure we're taking care of what we're supposed to be doing. And
Yep.
you're right. You're right. I think going into one of these um, team building events, whether it's with youths or adults or athletes or college students, whoever it might be, I think there's two things that will typically happen. One is preconceived notion and the cliches of what team building is.
Yep.
I'm sure you've heard it in your short time with us, like, oh, what are you going to have us jumping off picnic tables, catching each other?
Yeah.
And so we try to buck the trend of what people think it is.
Hmm.
We're not walking across hot coals. We're not doing trust falls in like a 2-hour team building event. Um, and then on the other end of that and this is typically more towards our younger participants of like, why are we actually doing, like, why aren't we sitting in class today? Why aren't we at recess? Why aren't we playing basketball or flag football? So there definitely is an element of like, hey, we're here. This is who we are. We're gonna play some games. We're gonna have some fun, but this is the underlying why.
Yeah, and there's definitely levels to it too. Like you said, of course we go to different programs. Like we're gonna have a fun day, participate. Let's go in and have some laughs. And then there's the professional development end of it too, where we're sitting down in front of a poster board. Like, all right, let's think, and it's less activity. And there's very small steps and lots of steps to get to each of those points. But what I think is cool, like you said, especially with age, makes a big difference. And what's fun is when you're at the younger age, the sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth graders that we do programs for, they don't realize sometimes that they're learning something.
Yes.
And it's really hard to get through to them with when it comes to participation, but you see the lights go on sometimes during the activity and what we're doing, and you do your best to be like, okay, how does this relate to the classroom, how does this relate to home, how does this relate to the sport that you play or the activity that you have, and we try to make that connection. But even sometimes when we don't, you can tell they're still taking away something from the activity.
Oh, 100%. And I think especially if we're talking about student groups, no one wants to fail and struggle over and over and over again. Right. And if we're in an activity or an experience or an initiative, whatever you want to call it, I think groups go through this cycle of like, oh, we're gonna dominate this activity, and then their chest puffed out, their walk, and then
Oh yeah.
7 minutes into the like, oh my, we haven't moved more than 6 feet, like, and I think what's cool about what we do is there's opportunities for safe failure and safe struggle, and to a point where like the struggle is good because as long as we don't let it blow overboard, the struggle is really what turns participants who think they have all the answers and they're going to crush it and they're used to maybe accomplishing things without too much stress. It's that struggle that opens their minds and allows them to be a little bit more pliable to, like, do you know why this mistake keeps happening? We're not paying attention to what's going on at our station. Okay, is it safe to assume then dedicating our focus to what we're doing here and not worrying about what the other students are doing in the other activity stations, is that a safe bet to maybe try to like improve how we're going, how things are going for us? And yeah, it is. Oh, so you're saying being focused on the task at hand is a good thing. Okay, awesome. So it's framing this experience so there is some element of struggle, um, and then knowing what, kind of having your thumb on the group to be like, all right, let's put the equipment down for a second. Let's talk about like what's happening and why it's happening and maybe
Yeah.
what we can do about it to improve, which is
I was just going to say that one of the things that the way the program is structured and the way we run these activities is, one, they're designed not to be like super free easy and you can do it all day long. Like that's not the point of why we go out to do these programs for the people. It's to go through that struggle and how you overcome it. And one
yep,
of the first things that I learned was, okay, explain the rules of the game, explain the safety parts, explain how it works. Three, two, one, go. Great, go. And you don't just let them figure it out for the next 45 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, and then stop them and then talk about it. There are stopping points throughout the activity that are purposely designed to be, okay, hands off, what's going on, what's happening, why isn't this working, or why is this working? Let's veer the attention to why we're here and what we're doing back again, and not just let them struggle for an hour and then go home. So we have points of like, hands off, let halfway through now, we have this much time left, what can we do better? And I
yep,
think that's part of the building. It's not just the activity, it's self-evaluating where your team is at, where you're at. Are you leading yourself? Are you leading others? Are you repeating? This happens with athletes a lot. Are you repeating the same mistake over and
yep.
over and over again just because you think that you're doing it right and not listening to the quiet person? I mean, I could go off of 1,000 examples, but
Oh goodness, yes.
I think it's great that we have that very purposeful stop and let's talk about what's happening.
Yep, no, 100%. And that's, I think that, and again, the depth of those like debriefing conversations vary significantly. Um, with certain groups, the goal of the program might not be for a ton of heavy learning. It might be more of a, hey, we work in a stressful environment and we need to do something together that's just not work related.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, that idea of, here's our string of, nine activities and initiatives that are included in this program. Let's look beyond the surface level of, oh, Zach's running this activity and Anastasia's running this act, and let's really get into like, you're running this activity because, and I'm running
Right.
this activity because, and really rooting the experience in some sort of learning outcome. And it might be as simple as, hey, just be decent to each other for 30 minutes. It,
Mhm.
it, it really might be as low as that, like just understanding and appreciating that when you're in a group of people are going to have differences, and it could be as complex as like, Zach is this leadership style and this person is this style, and how do we bridge any gaps that might be happening in between those two people.
Yeah, going off of that, it's I think one of the reasons why I was able to come on board and be a part of what you do at Empower is because I'm not you. I'm not Dan. Like I'm gonna be my own person. I'm gonna take 100% all the notes that you give me and help people with through the program of why they're there. But I'm gonna do it in my own way as well. So for you to understand that about me, I'm gonna facilitate a little bit different than you would
Yep.
based off of what they're looking for in my personality and the way my charisma and how I do things. I have to also understand every single person in front of me is going to be also different, and how
Yep.
they're going to receive feedback is going to be different as well. I mean, not to bring it back to my old job, but as a manager, it's one of the first things I had to learn is that not everyone likes my managing style, and not
Yeah.
everyone's gonna like me. And you don't have to like me to work for me. You don't have to like me to work with me. But we all have the same goal, and this is and help me help you get to that goal is kind of like what we do every day.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point, and that's one of the, I think, the challenges, but also the benefits of the type of work that we do. It's um the challenge is that it's not just handing somebody who's very new to this type of programming, here's your script, follow it.
Hmm.
That is far, far from, what our normal operation is. It's, here are the things that you need to cover, and then here's the kind of the parameters that we're going to ask that you work within to make sure that we're on brand and that the client's getting what they signed up for. But allowing for people to get to those points by leveraging their personality, their strengths, their past experiences. As we touched on early in the episode, like, one of the things that drew me to you had corporate management experience, you had experience in like personal training in the fitness world. And those were two things that, although they're very different environments that you operate under, or operate within, there are so many similarities between the two. And you bring up a good point, because when we look at our programming, before we get too deep into specific outcomes for specific groups that we're working with, we generally, all of our programming is designed and driven by three major themes of connection, collaboration, and conquering, right? And like, I think one of the quickest way to snuff out your ability to build connections with people is to be trying to be somebody else,
Yeah.
right? And like, if you tried to stand in front of a group and facilitate a certain activity word for word with the same way I did,
Yeah.
people are great at sniffing out like BS are like, they like, this guy's a phony.
Yeah.
So I think it's important, what are the parameters? Like, what's the sandbox that we have to play within? And then you might be playing over in that corner. I might be playing over in another corner. Someone might be in the middle, but we are within the framework of like who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
Still getting into leadership development, learning how to be a great teammate, learning how to face and overcome challenges.
Yep. I mean, one of the first things that I saw back in January when I was like my first couple weeks, you did your Dan thing. I like to call it the Dan thing, where you stand in front of a crowd and you're able to like riff off what Empower is, what we do, what to expect. Here are the guidelines. Here's what I hope from you. Here's what you're going to expect from me. This is what leadership is, and you go off on this tangent of like all these things. I'm like, I can't do that. And then I talked to you like, a few months later, I'm like, I don't know if I have what it in me to do what you do in that exact manner. And you shut me down so fast of like, I don't want you to do what Dan does. Like you're going to be able to get to that point in your own fashion, in your own way. I'm
Yep.
like, I'm getting there, but it's just, because of the different personality, different background, like I'm gonna be able to bring my own flair to it and of my own Zach way rather than Dan way.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. And that element of connection, like when we talk about connection being one of our major themes, our major pillars of our program, it's not just about providing opportunities for the participants to connect. We are in that as much as they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we don't, and we have like and again we've joked about this off camera and after and before programs, like we as facilitators have like 90 seconds to 2 minutes to build some stock with the people that we're working with.
Yep.
And what we do in that 2 minutes is absolutely going to determine the potential outcome for the 2, 3, 5 hour program that we have in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the connection piece is huge, not just for participants, but for our staff, our facilitators to understand, like when you show up to a school or to a corporate event, every moment that you're spending in isolation is a missed opportunity. Every moment where you're maybe talking to one person at the expense of the 50 other people is going to lead to missed opportunities. And this idea of, I know I'm going to end up challenging these people during the event. I know they're going to face struggle. I know they're going to want to quit. I know they're going to want to blame other people. Without some sort of connection, I don't stand a freaking chance in getting them and helping them get through that challenge so they can get to some finish line.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I had to get over. I'm outgoing. I'm personable. I can talk to a brick wall for an hour. And I think you saw that from the start with me,
Yep.
but I didn't realize how much it influenced and how much it helps as a facilitator, as part of the program, to build even a sliver of rapport with somebody in the crowd. So like, I don't care if it's dry, bad, talk about the weather, talk about what's on their sweatshirt, like even something as small as that build doesn't people don't realize it, but it builds so much trust that you wouldn't have been built otherwise if you didn't have that small conversation with that person, because then you're free to go back to them during that activity and take it from there.
Yeah, and I think like this idea of connection too, it's putting, you know, if we're going to ask people to get out of their comfort zone, right, in some way, shape, or form, we have to do the same thing. And we're going to
Right.
have to, we're going to have to talk to the participants that maybe we don't see an alignment in like shared interests, like, but we're going to be a good listener, and we're going to, engage with them. And, I think when participants see us doing that, it's an open door to be like, it's okay. Like, I'm going to talk to somebody I don't spend more than maybe 6 seconds with during a given day. And I, especially in this day and age with like social media and all that type of stuff, like this idea of like empathy and understanding and appreciating uniqueness, right? And it all comes from like this idea of, hey, we're not asking you to be best friends, be decent to each other, be respectful to each other. You never know, much like Lynn connected you and I and Joe and Maureen, and them going out to dinner with my mom and dad reconnected Joe and I. Like, you never know where this connection that you're having right now might bear fruit down the road.
Right, 100%. I don't know if we got off topic too much, but I think that's the whole idea behind Empower of what we do on a daily basis, and I think that's one of the hardest things, especially when I first started working with you, is explaining my job.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Zach, what do you do? Well, do you have how long we've been? 45 minutes? Like, let me explain. And I think that's a topic of conversation of like really, elevator pitch and power is really difficult because you have to almost experience it, and it becomes harder on the sales end of it and the lead generation part of it, just because like what on earth do you do if you're going into it completely blind? It's really hard essentially to explain. And again, taking the job was a jump off a cliff, feeling, oh, what's going to happen.
Yep.
And I mean, obviously, it worked out great. And I think this is amazing. But what would you say to somebody that is completely, I don't want to say the word ignorant, but doesn't know what Empower does, and
Yeah.
how
No.
would you explain it?
That's a great question, and that's something we battled. Like I talked on earlier, like it was so easy to throw like a 17-second clip
Yeah,
of someone being like, yeah, right down a zip
that's what
line,
we do.
like story told, boom, got
Right.
it. When we transitioned from having a facility to doing in the adventure education world, it's called prop initiatives, meaning it's games, activities, that use essentially like a PE class style of equipment, right? So we're not bringing like heavy duty, metal metal framing and whatnot to a
Right.
school. Like it's cones, it's dots, it's plastic tubes, it's puzzle pieces, all that type of stuff. But really, like after now whatever it's been like 20 or 16 years or 17 years or whatever, with Empower Leadership, 16 years, it's like we provide hands-on experiences, that are designed to bring people together, are designed to foster this idea of collaboration and problem solving, and that are designed to give people the opportunity to have a sense of accomplishment by conquering a challenge. And at its highest level, and it goes back to our kind of our key themes of connect, collaborate, and conquer.
Mhm.
Like without relationships, without trust, without um this idea of like, hey, I don't know Zach that well and he doesn't know me, but we're treating each other well and we can function together. Without that, you don't stand a chance at collaborating. If you and I never give in to this idea of like, we might not see things the same way, or we might not agree on everything, but I'm going to appreciate the hell out of what you're saying and your ideas. And if you appreciate the heck out of what I'm bringing to the table, then we have a fighting chance to function together. And that collaboration, one of my favorite quotes, and it's sport related, and it's Bill Parcells. I'll butcher it. Bill Parcells, coach of the New York Giants back in the 80s and 90s. He was like, winners come together as a team and overcome the problem. And again, this is not a direct
Yeah.
quote, but losers assemble in small groups and place the blame and pass the blame and blame everybody else. And so again, without the connection, there's less of a chance that you're actually going to be able to collaborate, come together, and like you said, like realize that there's a common goal, and then if we all pitch in, we got a fighting chance to achieve it. And then without the connection and without the collaboration, our ability to successfully achieve whatever it is that we're trying to achieve decreases.
Mhm.
So, as people ask like, what's Empower about? Well, we're gonna do some games and activities that, again, building up those bonds, offering opportunities to collaborate and work with different people, and then probably most importantly, helping people understand like what it takes to achieve, what it takes to accomplish, what it takes to be able to leave. Be like, we conquered, we dominated everything they threw at us.
Yep.
It's not easy,
No. Yeah, and I mean, I know we do team building exercises, but I love that you use that phrase to not include it in the explanation of what we do, because people write it off. They do. They're like, oh, we do team building exercises. I'm like, oh, okay, so like you do playing card mixers and icebreakers. Like, yes, but let me explain.
like
And I
part of
say,
it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very very small part
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was a great explanation, because it's such a unique job and a unique experience to be a part of Empower, that so sometimes it takes a little bit of sitting down and collaborating to get the message through.
No, 100%. And like, you look at it, you know, and as we get into this like version of the Lead with Empower podcast, we're gonna flood you with content, and it's gonna be activities that we run that might require big field space that you might be able to replicate in a classroom or in an office space. And our hope is that there's like a foundational base of knowledge to help you effectively bring those tools back to your day-to-day environment. But I think really always falling back on the idea if I'm going to do something that falls under the umbrella of team building, there has to be an element of connection. Why do we do icebreakers with very established teams? I don't even like calling them icebreakers anymore because they're so cliched. People are like, damn, I don't want to do another icebreaker.
Yeah.
But it's more of like, again, it's if we are doing that and we're doing that with them, if we're running, participating in again, connection is strengthened, right? And if they see a 45-year-old guy or a 36-year-old dude running around playing those same games, they're going to be, when it comes time to press them a little bit, they're going to be a little bit more open to it because there's going to be some sort of connection or relationship there.
Yep.
Um,
That's one of those things where like you're building something without knowing, like amongst the team.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And then, going back to your question, it's experiences that really promote, foster, help strengthen and develop relationships, collaboration, and your team's ability to achieve. Um, I think it's important to remember too, like when we talk about success or achievement or conquering something, it's all about how you take it in, right? And you can look at it. I played against Zach in a game of rock, paper, scissors, and I lost. Oh my God, that's an utter failure. Or it's I played a game against, and it's like an elementary example, as elementary as it gets. I played a game of rock, paper, scissors against Zach, and I lost, but I was focused and I did everything I could. And like one of those is a more productive, for lack of a better term, empowering way to view it.
Yep.
You can relate it to sport. Like, hey, you're going to run into an athlete or a team of athletes that's just flat out better than you. That's the harsh reality of life. Like, there's going to be somebody out there that's going to be better than you at something. So how do you measure success? Is it win and loss? Is it a GPA, or is it was I the best me, or were we the best we in that moment? And what can we do to be a little bit better tomorrow?
Yep.
And that's what's cool about what we do. We play games that bring up that concept, and you've seen it. I've seen it a bunch. Like and it doesn't have to be a child either. The person whose team loses a challenge, right? If we're like, and there's like this, they cheated, and why don't we not worry about what they did and worry about what we didn't do that held us back, right?
What can we control?
Yeah, controlling the controllable is something that has come up on the previous iteration of this podcast, and will once again come up as we dive deeper into it. But it's all about process. Like, it's very easy to look at a situation and say, oh my God, what an utter failure. And then it's almost like you wake up the next day halfway to being defeated versus, hey, I didn't get the result that I wanted, but I know I busted my ass to be the best that I could be, or for us to be the best that we could be. Let's try to be a little bit better tomorrow. And one of those mindset leads to negative body language, negative mindset, negative performance. The other one, almost like it's a clean slate. Like, we fell short yesterday, but today we're going to be better.
Yeah.
And I think with that mindset, and then with strong connections, and with that commitment to we versus me, individuals and teams are doing everything in their power to achieve success. And, at the end of the day, that's all we can ask for. Like, did we do everything with this opportunity? And what can we do to try to improve a little bit better the next time that opportunity comes around?
Yep. That's a great way of kind of synopsing like what Empower Leadership does.
Yeah, no, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Not the first rodeo.
That's the last time I'm going to compliment you today. Okay.
I'll bounce it back to you. Like, you've been doing this now. We'll say once you got through training, or at least started with training, we'll say you really started to come out and see programs in February. Start of February, late January, start of February. But for easy math, that's in 8 months. You've probably been a part of like over 100 programs. you've gotten your feet in the water as far as like, how do I sell a program in Zach's voice under the Empower brand?
Hmm.
Um, I guess been one thing for you that you kind of expected to be the way it is right now, and then what's one thing for you that's been like, I never thought, I never
Yeah.
thought management or I never thought leadership would involve this, but it does. Like, I
So
guess,
one thing that I expected, and one thing that I didn't, essentially.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right, give me 1 second.
yep, absolutely. He's digging deep for his
Yeah,
answer.
she's got to go upstairs. Come on. Go ahead. Good girl. She was making her way out of that crate for sure. So before she ruins it, I'll edit that out.
That's
Um,
smart.
yeah. So yeah, she's a bad girl. One thing. So one of the things that I expected going into it, especially after a couple months of really just observing what you were doing, is understanding that I know what I was going to bring to the table from my experience, and I know that you saw this probably earlier than I did, having the conversations that we had in January and what I was all about, what my background was, but I knew my outgoingness and my ability to talk to a brick wall was going to be a benefit, and I know that, like, I know when I meet people, like, okay, that guy is easy to talk to, like you can really lean on that. So I brought that personality trait
Yep.
into the job, and I think that's what you should do in life. Like, what are you good at? Lean on that and use that with all aspects. So
Yep.
100%, like, I was able to right off the bat incorporate my that ability that I have into the programs. Like, okay, if nothing at all, I can create connections with people. The challenges or the unexpected things that I have experienced so far would be taking what we do to a deeper level inside the programs.
Hmm.
And I think right off the bat, like, I knew, like, these silly little games were more than just silly little games, and I was able to dig deep a little bit when it comes to why we're doing it, but to really bring it home to relate to what people are there for, not just as hiring and power, but to relate it to their job, relate it to their home, relate it to their sport, relate it to their hobby, is the deep connections that I was still and am still working on, beyond just the surface level of what we're there for, you know?
Yep. Yep. Love it. And you were right. Like I probably said that to you in our second conversation. Like if this does work out for both of us, like don't lose like your outgoingness and ability to strike up conversation and kind of put yourself again. It's not easy for everybody, and for some, it's a big challenge to kind of put yourself on stage. And there's a vulnerability involved in that. Like I was like, don't whatever you do, keep that
Keep
keep
that.
that in your pockets. It's going to
Yeah.
serve you well.
Yep. And I mean, I've talked about it with you in the past too, where, I mean, going off to the harder parts is I pigeonhole myself with what I'm doing.
Hmm.
So if I'm training at the gym, like, okay, gym Zach, like, gym mind, this is what I, obviously I'm still fun and outgoing at the gym, but like, I'm training for this. And then, like, okay, I leave, I'm at home, okay, what chores do I have? What things I need to do? Like, okay, I'm at home or I'm at work, okay, like, this is what I have to do. But in reality, all of it is connected.
Yep. Yeah.
Everything that you go into when it comes to the attitude of leadership of self and others, like, everything is connected, in without with you knowing it or not. Like, that's what you're going to bring to it. So, like, of course, if you have a bad day at work, how many people bring that home with them?
Yeah.
Darn near everybody.
Yep.
Everybody. So why'd you have a bad day at work? What could you have done differently? Obviously, there was a lot of things out of your control, and you can complain about it. But you could also do, and we can get into that another podcast. But all these things are connected, and I think that this opportunity that you gave me with Empower really, really showed me that. And I've taken things that I didn't realize I was doing, good and bad, at my past job. So, like, I'll give you an example. Like, in management, I was absolute king at leading by example
Yeah.
because I knew what it felt like, and like I talked about an hour ago, of being at the bottom of the totem pole of picking up dog poop. So even as a general manager of that place, like, and we were down staff, I jumped into the doggy daycare and I was picking up dog poop with
You
the
weren't
rest.
afraid to throw the bag over the
No
hand
problem.
and get in there. Yeah,
No
exactly.
problem. And like that wasn't just like, oh, like he's just showing, the boss is just doing that just to say that he can do it too. Like, no, like I genuinely had no issues doing it because like that, I know where I come from, and that's a thing that I could step up and do, and I did it day after day. Not an issue. When I worked for
Yep.
Best Buy, same thing. I had at one point during the holidays 80 to 100 employees, and I was they call it breaking down truck. So big 18-wheeler pops in, and you have thousands of products. I'm helping you break down the truck, no problem. Like, I can lead by example. 10 years later, working for Empower, now I know that's one of the traits of leadership, is what I can control and what I can do is I can lead by example all day long.
Yep.
Second thing too is the attitude of which I did it. So I've always had a 100, and you've seen me over the last 10 months, positive attitude going to anything that I'm going to do. So rather, I can give you 100 examples, but no matter what I was doing, I'm going to do it with a smile on my face just because that's my personality. I can't let you get me down.
Yep.
End of story.
Yep.
And I didn't realize, and now I do, that affects everyone around me. The tenfold.
Yep.
So even if I'm doing something that I personally hate and I wish I could never do it again, I'm still gonna do it. I'm gonna do it at the best of my ability, and I'm gonna do it with a dumb smile on my face, just
Yep.
because that's been my personal way about going about life in general. General, get it? In gentlemen in life in general. So when I hear you bring up things that I've done naturally, but now I can implement it and verbalize it in an experience that I've had, it makes it even cooler to understand.
Yep. No, 100%. We're getting close to the finish line over here. You brought up a couple great points. One, attitude is contagious, and we've all been around people that are like, down in the dumps all the time, and then you feel that start to like crawl it, and you like stop it.
Yep.
Like, I'm not, so I think, and then on the converse of that, we've been around people, and I think that's one of the things I've appreciated most when I'm not at full throttle.
Capacity. Yeah.
You're the kick in the ass. Like, all right, I got to take another step, and vice versa. So I think there's a good play off of each other there. Um, so I think attitude is contagious, and attitude leads to performance, right? If you go, then you said it earlier, if you go into a situation saying you're going to get beat, you're going to get beat. If you're going to go into a situation saying I'm going to make the most out of this, and win, lose or draw, I'm going to be a little bit better after than I was at the start. That absolutely, that mindset impacts performance. And then the other thing, and you said this earlier, like gym Zack versus home Zack versus work. There's no on or off in leadership, right? And it gets into leadership of self. Like, are you doing the right thing when no one's watching? And personally, yeah, maybe you're not answering to a supervisor, but you got to look in the mirror that night or the next morning to be like, man, I missed an opportunity today. Or man, I did everything in my power to take advantage of the opportunity. And like, I think that's a powerful point. Like, there's never an on and off button, and we have our good days and our bad days. Don't get me wrong, but I think embracing a process of I'm going to try to be the best that I can be. I'm going to treat people around me as best as I could, and I'm going to try to be a great teammate. And that stuff travels to no matter what it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, this is episode 1 of, we have a big list. We have a big list of content and ideas and future episodes in the hopper. You'll see Zack and I on the next episodes and on the subsequent episodes about that. And really, like I said, our aim with this podcast is to be a resource, to provide you with some content that really drives the experiential education side of things, or the experiential team building side of things, and then provide you with some resources, whether it be here's an activity, here's how you run it, Here's how you run a debrief. Here's how you introduce an activity. Here's how you deal with frustration. Here are some teaching models that we use. So moving forward, our hope is to fill up some content that will be useful to you no matter what it is that you're doing. And Zach got episode number 1 under your belt.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I mean, like as an outro for me, this is the first time I'm in front of the camera as well, and talking about this stuff. And there's so much to talk about
Yeah.
with all the topics that we have. So I'm excited to be a part of it and to learn some more too, and to contribute.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Likewise, feelings mutual. It's going to be great. And the last thing for people that are still wondering what the heck is Empower Leadership all about, I would say best resources. Our website is leadwithempower.com. And our Instagram is handle is at leadwithempower. Our Instagram handle is a great resource. Our Instagram account is a great resource. We courtesy of Zach, have posted over 50 reels this year. And those reels really do capture kind of the essence of what our programming is all about. So leadwithempower.com, at leadwithempower on Instagram. And you just completed episode 1 of the new Lead with Empower podcast with Zack Morello, Dan Jaskot. Thanks for checking it out.